Hello everyone. So in today's video, I'm going to be decluttering my entire eyeshadow collection. This is going to be a long one. This was like 2 days of filming. So I hope you guys really enjoy it. I'm giving you guys speed reviews of every single eyeshadow I have in my collection, as well as swatches. So I'm going to be breaking down these formulas. I had really a ton of fun in today's video. I hope you guys enjoy it, and certainly make sure to subscribe if you guys want some long declutters popping up on your YouTube homepage because I've got a lot coming. I did a pretty ruthless declutter today. This is my new collection. Decluttered like an entire box of items today. Feel really good about it, but without further ado, let us begin. So I thought today we might start off with this single eyeshadow from Dior because it is one of my absolute most used, and it is Dior Beige Mitza. Dior Beige Mitza is one of their monocolor couture shadows, and admittedly, I don't think I've tried any of the other ones. However, it almost feels pointless because this is like I can't imagine a better single eyeshadow. The reason being is that it's a one and done. All I need for a complete beautiful look is this eyeshadow. And let me show you what it looks like. I mean, can you do you see that? What's beautiful about it is that there's just enough depth to give the eye a really soft definition, and yet the taupey shift and shimmer is still relatively light and airy on the eyes. It doesn't look overly heavy and dark. It's like the softest smoky eye. There is no chunky glitter, really appropriate for day or night, so it just makes for an incredibly usable eyeshadow, and I think it's just one of the best eyeshadows out there. You guys are probably going to find, especially if you're new to my channel, going to see a lot of these kinds of shades. I tend to really enjoy kind of like a neutral brown with a taupe shimmer throughout. These shades really get along well with me, but this texture is also really thin on the eyes and lasts really well. So it makes for a pretty perfect eyeshadow in my opinion. So I am certainly going to be keeping this in my collection. Now this shadow I'm a little bit undecided on. So this is from Chantecaille and it is the shade Zebra. Now I have seen their Mustang eyeshadow. They had like this really beautiful horse collection. Oh God. Or I'm sure it was, marketed way better than what I'm saying right now. It was probably like Running Wild or Wild and Free or something along those lines. But this shade just isn't my perfect shade. You can see it has this like pink shift to it. So you can see here, it's way more pink. And for me, these kinds of shades, I don't gravitate towards them. It's kind of orange, pink, beautiful. But for some reason on me, I think it almost like washes me out. This kind of shade has just never been for me. That doesn't mean it's not beautiful, and I actually love this formula. It's more on the dry side, except it lays very closely on the skin, which makes the reflection ultra reflective. You can see that there. And there are these very small little particles of glitter that really give this a nice twinkle. So I'm gonna say, overall formulation, beautiful. I've swatched other shades and have nearly bought a few multiple times. Actually, when I saw Lauren May in person, I remember she had the one with the horse on it. And she's like, Amanda, why haven't you bought this yet? Because I mean, it is just a very Amanda shade and it's a very pretty wet look glitter. But yeah, this one in particular is not for me. And there are people in my life I know this would look better on. Like this would look way better on Lauren, even. I'm sure she already has it, but What I'm saying is I think it needs to go. Oh god, if I stick on every single eyeshadow this long, this is gonna be like a 2-hour long video. Next up, let's go ahead and talk about these little mini palettes from Rabanne. So are these single eyeshadows? Listen, I keep them with my single eyeshadows, so that's why we're talking about them. But I have the Date Night, which is stunning. And this is the All Nights on Me. So I personally think that Rabanne is an incredibly underrated brand. Their eye products are stunning, and I actually think they recently signed Troye Sivan as like one of their spokespeople and models, and I think that was a good move because I think that more people would absolutely love this brand if they actually knew about it. So, first of all, we have All Lights on Me. This is essentially an incredibly pretty, soft champagne shadow. Alone, it's very pretty. And also, if you are someone that you're like, Amanda, I really want like a wet, glossy looking glitter, a champagne like this, but I don't want a ton of sparkle. This is a very beautiful shade. It has a little bit more base pigment than some of the other wet look eyeshadows that I have in my collection, but it's translucent enough that the effect is going to be there. The shimmer is also very, very fine. And on the other side of this, you have the eye gloss. So listen, I love an eye gloss for like a more editorial look, but I gotta be honest, I don't think I'm like really doing editorial looks very often. When you place this on top, I mean, look at that. It is wet glossiness. It is incredible. But, this is gonna crease. If you are really into this look, this palette is beautiful. Honestly, I'm going to keep it because I really like this shadow. And if I'm going to use an eye gloss, this is honestly a really beautiful one because it's not super thick. This is a really good one, and the texture is, I think, exactly where you would want it to be. So that's why I'm keeping this, but let's go ahead and talk about this palette. This is this is one of those things. I am not a huge fan of this shadow, but this one I love so much. So again, this is the Date Night palette. Let me share with you guys this eyeshadow. Is that not beautiful? I mean, I really enjoy the warmth of this one. I think that sometimes I tend to lean pretty cool toned, but there is some like slight red quality to this shade that I think looks really nice on my skin tone and with my hair, but it still has enough of like the depth and that, again, beautiful fine sparkle. Rabanne just does such an incredible job with the sparkle. But I don't like this shade all too much. But you can probably see why. Look at how creamy and white that base pigment is. I've really actually never been a fan of shades like this. I know they work for some people. For me, they just look frosty and flat. I'm not a frosty person when it comes to my eye looks. I think I don't know, they just feel outdated to me. Do you see how that top shade is giving like it just has so much luminosity? And then here, down here, like I think some people would expect this to be more luminous, but it's not. It's quite flat. I am going to keep it, and I gotta tell you, like price per ounce, I still think this is worth it, even though I only like half of the mini palette. So for now, these are going to be staying in my collection. Let's see what we have here next. The beautiful Victoria Beckham single eyeshadows. These are some of my favorites, people. I have the shade Mink, I have the shade Velvet, I have the shade Chiffon, as well as Tea Rose. I would love to see Victoria Beckham actually come out with some more shades. Let me give you guys some swatches. If you guys aren't familiar with the lid lusters, these are essentially like a cross between a cream eyeshadow and a sparkly top coat. Think like Bodyography glitter pigment or even the Hourglass scattered lights, except a little bit thicker and even more pigmented. When you open them up, Oh gosh, I just put lotion on, so now this is gonna be a little difficult. When you open them up, they do have the little protector on top, and that actually keeps them pressed down as well. This is the shade Tea Rose. I don't know what I was expecting with this shade, but there's a lot more pink to it than I saw like online. It actually has become one of my favorites. Now, you can see here, I just see that being kind of like a crowd-pleasing shade. It has a beautiful golden glitter to it with a little bit more of that pinky base. There's even a little bit of a kind of purple note to it, and I think that purple note is what makes this just a little bit more unique. You can also see like there is depth to this, and you can certainly build it up. If this didn't have that depth, I think it would kind of fall into the category of that zebra eyeshadow from Chantecaille, but it doesn't. It has enough depth that I think I can pull it off. So really like this one and plan on keeping it. Now let's actually, should we just go for like my favorite one? Let's just talk about my favorite one. This is Mink. This is like one of the sexiest eyeshadows I have in my collection. Like when I think about sex pot makeup, this is the shade that comes to mind. I always feel incredible when I wear it. Now you can see it's more of this like deep smoky shade, but the dimension is incredible and it gives the eyes this like beautifully lived in look. Do you see that shadow? It's pretty incredible. So I actually think you can really see on the finger, like, how reflective it is, but on especially, like, on the edges of these swatches, you can see that it has quite a deep brown base pigment to it, and then the overlay is more of a silvery, wet look sparkle, and on the eyes, it just glimmers and glimmers. It is such an absolutely beautiful, smoky, one and done look. And what I really like about it is that sometimes with shades like this, they go very like duochrome-y. And because this shift, I think, is still wearable, it basically just comes out to be like this gorgeous, gorgeous wet look, one and done, all in a smoky eye. If you are not into pigment though, if you want something more sheer and wearable like every day. I mean, this is, I don't think maybe what you would be looking for, but if you aren't afraid of this kind of grungy wet look, I think that there's a chance that you would really like that. Some of my favorite eye looks have been with that shade. Now, this shade, Chiffon, I think I'm going to declutter this because this kind of falls into that champagne category that is just not for me. This doesn't have the same reflection as the other shades. It's because the sparkles that are incorporated through, there's just not enough contrast. So even though the sparkles in here could look wet within another shadow like one of these, they don't because the base is just so flat. The contrast, there isn't contrast there. And there are other shades that look more wet within this kind of color family that I have in my collection. So I'm trying to be better about only keeping what I'm using, and I rarely use this one. So this one is going to be decluttered. However, I would not declutter Velvet. Velvet is stunning. And yeah, I can't believe I'm saying this. I'm already thinking about fall makeup. I mean, I'm savoring summer. Don't like don't get me wrong, but this is kind of the perfect fall eyeshadow, and definitely a beautiful shadow for the holidays. So this is Velvet. Oh my gosh. It's one of my favorite green eyeshadows in my collection. It's beautiful because it has that kind of green gold shift. It's just incredibly festive. I mean, you could use it all year round, especially like if you had more of a neutral kind of smoky look going, you wanted to really amp it up with a pop of color. Like this is one of the most wearable pops of color I feel like you could incorporate into a look. That gold glitter just makes this easy to incorporate into any look. You can see I definitely have used this one up a lot. It's just really easy to just whack on the lids, you know what I mean? So this one will be staying. And I'm also keeping Mink and Tea Rose. So all these are staying in the collection. I don't think we've talked about any cream eyeshadows yet, so let's go ahead and do that. So these are the Mob Beauty eyeshadows that I have. So you could get one of these little palettes. They're like replaceable. You just pop in the shadows into this and it closes. Or they also have these like little compostable eyeshadow palettes that you can use if you'd rather do paper. So let's see here. I have the shade M105. I have the shades M85, M83. And then I have the two shades that Shelby Wilson did with them, which is M146 and M145. And these are really beautiful. So let's do some swatches here. This shade is intense. It's like this beautiful red brown. I mean, that's insane. And what you're probably noticing immediately is that these cream eyeshadows are not shy of pigment, especially the matte ones. They just a little bit really goes a long way. And again, they're called the cream clay eyeshadows. I personally really see that with these. They have this incredibly creamy texture with massive pigment right off the bat. So that's the shade M85. Beautiful mint green. I love doing this for like some mod looks. And then we also have the shade M85, which is this purple. And I've showed you guys this before, but if you mix them, you get a beautiful, you could also like mix these to get more of like a periwinkle, but like look at that robin egg blue. And that's why I specifically picked these two shades. They do have a blue, but I was like, I wanted both of these, and combined they would give me the same effect. So that's what I went with. This was like one of the first Mob Beauty purchases that I made. Very happy with it. I don't really reach for this one a ton. So I don't know. It's hard, but I think I am going to declutter this one, M105. If it was a little bit more neutral and it didn't have as much red, I think I would use it more, but it doesn't. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. And shall we go ahead and swatch the shades that Shelby Wilson did with them? So M146 is really beautiful. It has this beautiful purple note to it, and I don't know, I personally find that it reminds me of some of these like more purpley shades that like Laura Mercier would come out with. But what I really like about this formula is how undeniably smooth they are. And then this is, what shade is this? This is M145. That was 146. And I also, again, I love, 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 love this one as well. This shade is incredible too. I really love both, and the combo just makes a lot of sense to me. Not positive if they're still stocked, but they're very beautiful if you guys have been looking at them. So I'm going to be keeping both of these. They're also nice, I think, again, for someone that doesn't want a ton of like individual sparkles, because these don't have a ton of them. They feel more like, you know, soft sparkle or more like luminosity. And I think that those kinds of shadows look really pretty on a variety of people. Next up, we have the Merit Solo Shadows, and I have 4 different shades here. These are really good eye bases, so that's mainly what I use them for. If I want to know that my eyeshadow is going to stay in place, this is what I'm going to be using. They're all matte. And so, for example, this formula versus like the Mob Beauty, these are thinner and they dry faster, but they're more budge proof. So it just depends on like what you're looking for. Also, you can see like they're not as thick. They're just very thin. They sit very, very closely on the skin, which makes them good for a base product. So that was Vachetta. This is, I think, like my most used. I put this like all over the lid into the crease. And then when I do, I just find that anything that I add on top lasts longer. And I think that's pretty huge. Next we have, no, I'm gonna wait till the end to swatch Viper. This is the shade Studio. Beautiful. If you are someone that loves like a soft pink undertone base, this one is really beautiful. Very well done. I mean, any of these could be used as a single eyeshadow, but yeah, incredibly smooth, long lasting. And then I have two deeper shades. I'm not really using them a ton, but they do like last really long. So this is the shade Viper. That's more of like a green base shade. Very pretty, but I'm just not using it. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and declutter Viper. Again, I'm really trying to get rid of the things that I'm not using, so I think Viper is gonna go. And then I also have the shade Nelson. And Nelson's a hard one because I think this would be really nice to have for more smoky looks. You can see it's quite deep, but it's like something between a black and a gray. And I know me, and I'd rather have something that's kind of decidedly black or decidedly brown. I just don't really reach for this kind of a color very often. So again, I'm trying to be better. I'm going to go ahead and declutter it. But yeah, they are beautiful. I use these shades the most for sure. So Nelson is gonna go. These two shades are certainly gonna stay. Now, I think we have good news about the Sephora colorful eyeshadows. I thought that they were being discontinued, but right now they're all in stock, I'm pretty sure. So I'll leave a link down below to them, but these are some of my favorite affordable eyeshadows of all time. I absolutely love them. So we have the shade Twinkle Twinkle. By the way, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna keep all of these except for maybe one that I have my eye on right now. But if you love a wet looking eyeshadow, Twinkle Twinkle is like where it's at. Look at that. So pretty. Just fantastic. Next we have Let's Party. It's weird. I thought he had already decluttered this one. So that's kind of odd. Yeah, it's pretty, but like not as pretty as Twinkle Twinkle, so it's gonna get decluttered now. We have perhaps my favorite, which is the absolutely iconic Choco Excess Luxury, guys. And these are like $8. That is luxury. This combo, Twinkle Twinkle with Shock Chalk, is like the best. These two are staying. This formula is different in the shade Shock Chalk. I also love it, but it's way creamier. It's way more of like moussey kind of texture. I mean, look at that. The payoff is kind of like completely different. Yeah. So if you like a wet look eyeshadow, this is great. Honestly, that shade looks like lithium from Urban Decay. Add Twinkle Twinkle on top of that, and you have lithium. So just something to keep in mind. Really, really big fan of this one. So this one is staying. I am going to pass along this shade, which is Demanding, a little bit too yellow for me. So that one's gonna go. But you can see there are a few different formulas within the Sephora collection Colorful Shadows. This is Fantasia. This is the same kind of formula as Demanding was, but it's way, way more reflective. Look at that. Incredible. Just stunning. That one's staying. Fantasia's been one of my favorites for a long time, kind of a sleeper hit. And then finally we have Pyramid. And Pyramid is a similar formula to Shock Chalk, that like really creamy, creamy formula. And this is like goodness. Just so good. Really, really like that one. Just these shades are giving luxury. Would you believe me if I said all of these were like $8? Had you not known? Like these look like some of my absolute favorites from a lot of luxury brands. Such a good one. So this one is also going to stay. Okay, let's talk about the Coffey Zari Eyes eyeshadows. So I have the shade Bronze Brocade and Sitara Sparkles. And Bronze Brocade is definitely, definitely my favorite. You can see it's my favorite. The reason these single eyeshadows are so cool is that they're kind of like they're a cross between a cream and a gel. You don't need a lot because they're insanely, insanely pigmented and so like they feel wet on the finger and then they go down so thin. Like it I truly haven't used another formula like them, and they're also incredibly budge proof. This shade is my favorite, like by far. I would recommend this single eyeshadow to really anyone that loves a warm brown and wants those little sparkles, but you want it all in a very like budge proof, creamy formula. Highly, highly recommend this one, especially this shade. I'm going to be keeping that one, but Sitar Sparkles is, you can, I don't know if you can see this, guys. I have not, I don't even know if I've touched this. Like, what a bummer. This like got kind of pushed to the back of my single eyeshadow drawer and then I just forgot about it. But here is swatch. It's, yeah, it's like the same formula. I think that in order for me to get use out of this, I would have to like really sheer it out because see, I like the way that looks really sheared out. I don't like it as much with like the full pigment, but just a little bit kind of scattered over the eyes. Oh, that looks really pretty. I think if you want something long wear, budge proof, I mean, especially for the summer, these make a lot of sense to me. Good for wedding makeup even. Now that I'm kind of thinking about it. So if you want like a long wear budge proof shadow with a beautiful sparkle that doesn't like have that fallout or you don't have to worry about it like melting off the eyes, these are very good. I love when a brand comes out with like a really new, different formula. And I think that that is what Coffey did. I actually have been really interested in trying their new lip stains as well because I love a lip stain. But you know what? I think I'm going to keep both of these. I will say I'm not into really the shade selection. I'd love to see some more. I know they wanted to do like some fun colors. There's like kind of like a neon yellow shade. I want to see more neutrals. I'd love to see a matte color with this kind of formula. Beautiful stuff here. I don't know if you guys have noticed, would love to hear feedback down below. I recently redid my entire declutter overhead filming setup. It took me a really long time to perfect it. Still perfecting it for sure, but I'd love to hear any feedback that you guys have. I think it looks good, but you know, I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about Half Magic. So we have two single shadows here, and I also have their puck, like their glitter puck, which I don't know if that's a single shadow or not, but that's how I use it somewhere around here. Yes, here it is. It is freaking giant. So let's start with first the single shadows. So I have the shade Wet Pebble. This is my favorite of the two. These little like egg carton containers. You're supposed to put this into like a singles palette. The reason I don't do that anymore is that my palettes, like my eyeshadow palettes, if I put in a bunch of singles into them, those get lost, oddly enough, more often than I lose these. Like, I know that I have one around here somewhere, and I could not for the life of me find it. Luckily, I know I only had like a few shadows in there, but that's the reason I kind of keep them, you know, in like single shadows. And honestly, if I'm traveling, I'm probably only gonna keep like, I'm only gonna throw in one eyeshadow, and it'll probably be like a one and done kind of shade like this. But all right. We got that explanation out of the way, but this shade, look at this shade, you guys. Oh my God, I can't. I don't know why I have not used this more. I mean, that is also, gotta be honest here, that is very, very similar to Mink from Victoria Beckham. And it's similar also to Beige Mitza. This is a little deeper than Beige Mitza from Dior, and it's not quite as deep as Mink. So this is something in between. I will say that this formula feels like very creamy in the finger, but it's definitely thinner than Victoria Beckham. Beautiful. Like, could not recommend it enough. In fact, I want to make like kind of a mental note that I need to bring this back out because it is kind of the perfect like date night eyeshadow. However, let's talk about Lil Deranged. This one, I don't know, guys. It's beautiful. I'm just not using it. Again, really good formula. Like, there's reflection. It's so smooth. Like, you can just tell that these are good quality pigments. But yeah, I would rather reach for Velvet from Victoria Beckham. This one has too much yellow for me. It's kind of like not really decidedly mint green. It's almost like a very soft ivy kind of color. Just for me, it's not really my thing. Would be beautiful for like the Renaissance Festival. I'm really excited for like Ren Fest to come back. If you guys don't know what that is, you should look it up and see if you have one in your area. They're so fun. But anyway, that would be like so pretty for kind of like an ivy fairy kind of look. But you guys, on an everyday basis, I'm not going to be using this. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and declutter this one. And lastly, we have this beautiful little glitter puck. How much product is in here? 0.30 ounces. If you told me this was half an ounce of product, I would believe you, like truly. So this one actually comes with this big like sponge that you put on top, which is good because you can see like the product does kind of shake around in here. This is just straight glitter, guys. There is barely a creaminess to this. It's very dry, and it's because you just put your finger in and you can top any eyeshadow look with this absolutely stunning glitter. And it is a pressed glitter, like it's just stunning. The reason I really like this one is that it is drier. So again, it is a pressed glitter, but it has this really nice pink undertone to it that I don't really have like a pink undertone and another wet look sparkle. To me, this is just like the pinky kind of version of like Space Cowboy. Just absolutely beautiful. Definitely one that I would recommend checking out if you guys are like a huge fan of glitter. I mean, you can even see when I put out my hand like this, like these are beautiful and reflective, but this is like that kind of wet effect glitter. So it just depends on what you want. Completely different formulas though, obviously. So I am going to go ahead and keep the glitter puck as well as wet pebble. And then Little Deranged is going out the door. Next up, we have the lovely Supergoop Shimmer Shade. Unfortunately, this one has expired on me, so I am going to get rid of it. I mean, do I really think this is necessarily expired? No, I think that there's a chance that the sunscreen is just unstable now. But before I get rid of it, I am going to give you guys a swatch because I love it and I think that this is a really beautiful product. It has just this beautiful smoothness. It's just a perfect kind of one and done shade. Beautiful golden shift. Beautifully long wearing. I love this color. And I love, like, I really do like SPF makeup. I think it's nice to have. Will I rely on SPF makeup or would I rely on this for sunscreen? No, but the eye area is so often neglected, and I think it's kind of nice to have another layer of protection. And also, this like never has burned my eyes or was weird around my eyes. I really enjoyed the shimmer shades from Supergoop. Would love to see them come out with more. Or I mean, I know that CL is now like full force. Really, really excited about that brand. I wonder if they have any cream shadows in the making. I'd love to see them come out with something similar to this, but I think for now I should let this one go. This is another shade that I am going to let go. It's from Bobbi Brown and it's Burnt Sugar. I think I wanted more from this. It's a satin shade. There's nothing wrong with it, guys. I mean, look at it. It's very pretty. Actually, it's really similar to the shade that we just swatched. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just not reaching for it. Very thin formula, pretty for every day. There is someone out there that I know that will get more use out of this than I will. And I want them to have this. For me, it's just a little bit lackluster. So I'm going to go ahead and pass that one. Again, I'm definitely trying to do like a decent declutter here and really um, pare down before my move. Let's go ahead and tackle these Jelly Much eyeshadows from Colourpop. Really, really cool formula. Weird execution. I have 4 different shades here. So the texture on these is really cool. I mean, I love this shade in particular. If I'm gonna reach for like a duochrome, I really do enjoy this one. It's pretty similar to Solstice from Urban Decay, so if you like that shade, there's a great chance that you'll like this one as well. Very kind of wet formula. You know, the formula isn't far off from like the Coffey eyeshadows. You know, like now that I think about it, it's just that the shades the shades are just odd. And also these are like freaking messy. Jeez Louise. This one is beautiful. It sits very closely on the skin. So I'm gonna keep this one because if I were to go with this kind of texture, I would want it to be this shade. So I am going to keep it. However, I'm not seeing these stay. Like this shade, Big Ego, like really like they're so annoying to get open. This is another one of those like really magical kind of shades. I can see folks like being really into this. Like, look at that. So fun and really beautiful. I mean, I do like it. I just know me and you guys know, I'm boring. I'm just boring. And this is not boring. It's fun and I just want someone else to have fun. I don't want to see it sit here. So that one is going to go. Now this shade Sage Bundle, I was really excited about this one, but on the eyes, like something happens and it goes a little bit flat. Here we go. So I thought that this was going to look super wet and pretty, but again, it's sometimes like these creamy base pigment shadows with like a lot of white to them. See how like flat that looks in comparison to the other? It just doesn't have enough contrast and it just ends up not looking as reflective. So Sage Bundle is going to go. And then I have Field of Fairies. I mean, it's pretty, but it doesn't have the kind of reflection that these two have. But I know that someone else could get some use out of these, and they do last well. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter that one as well. Um, we're just going to keep that top shade, which I think is really pretty. Shall we talk about some of the most iconic single shadows that I have in my entire collection? The Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize. They really spurred my love of cream eyeshadows, and they were one of the first cream eyeshadow formulas that I tried. If you are like a very long time viewer of my channel, you would know I did 1 week of cream eyeshadow and I posted a new cream eyeshadow review every day for an entire week. And this one was definitely a front runner of the bunch. And they've absolutely remained some of my favorites, but I use some more than others. So let's go ahead and talk about the shades that I have. I have Star Gold, Mona Lisa, which I think might be called Chocolate Brown now, Oyster Pearl, and Exaggerize. Now, Exaggerize was actually a limited edition shade. I don't understand why, because I think it's one of the best eyeshadows that Charlotte Tilbury has ever come out with. Just gonna say it. Now, these two I think are tied for my favorite, but I think, no, I think Oyster Pearl is still my favorite Charlotte Tilbury Eyes to Mesmerize and one of my favorite Charlotte Tilbury products ever. definitely not getting rid of this. It is this beautiful pewter color. You know, when I was showing you guys earlier the Bobbi brown burnt sugar shade, this shade from Charlotte Tilbury, as well as the formula, this has what that was missing. These Charlotte Tilbury shadows just look so creamy on the eyes. They're a very, I did not try eyeshadow product that looks beautiful. If that's your thing, I think that these are absolutely beautiful. And they are effortless, but they just look effortless on the eyes. And this is a very sheer layer of this. You can absolutely build up this shade and get like a more rich color. See that? I mean, it's so, so reflective and beautiful. I think that this is one of those cult favorite shades from Charlotte Tilbury, and for good reason. Certainly, this will be staying in my collection. But I do think that it's time to pass on Star Gold. During my last declutter, I had this and I said, you know, maybe if I can just get some more use out of it. But you guys, that hasn't happened. I don't reach for very warm tones like this. It's just not something that I do. So I do think that it is time to pass this one along. Just kind of, I mean, to me, Oyster Pearl is just so much more beautifully dimensional, and there's just something about Star Gold that just feels flat. So that one is going to go into the declutter bin. Now, let's go ahead and talk about these last two shades. I will say I'm kind of on the fence about Mona Lisa. So let's first swatch Exaggerize because I think this shade is closer to the other shades we just swatched. Oh my God. Someone please explain to me why Charlotte Tilbury comes out with these absolutely incredible eyeshadows and then immediately discontinues them. Like, that just, to me, that could so easily be permanent. That could be a permanent shade. But this has the beautiful creaminess and light reflection, both from the texture and these actual sparkles. So it's like the best of both worlds. This is such a good one. You can't get it. But if they do bring it back, I will be right there to let you guys know. So make sure you're subscribed. I think I might declutter Mona Lisa. I feel like I haven't used it really at all this year. And I just don't really see myself using it again this year. Like, it's not really exciting me at this point. So, though it is good, I think it might just be time to pass the torch and pass along this product. Charlotte Tilbury, I think, also sent me this in PR. And listen, like, when I fell in love with these, I immediately knew that I wanted to swatch every single one of them in person. I had swatched this multiple times before, and again, it's one of those champagne shades that I don't see myself reaching for. I think that they're just not reflective enough for me. It's pretty, but I think someone else could get more use out of it. So I'm going to go ahead and pass this along. Let's talk about the e.l.f. No Budge Cream eyeshadows. Now, these are some of my favorite shadows that are at the drugstore. I think e.l.f. just did a pretty incredible job with them. So I have the shade Golden Rays. I have the shade Sand Dune. I have the shade Canyon. And then I have the shade Plateau. You know, these, like, when I think about it, these are a similar texture to the Mob Beauty Cream eyeshadows, but you can use them very thinly. So, oh, crap, this one's a little bit dried out on the top. Kind of a bummer. I might declutter this one purely because of that. You could probably go in with like a little MAC Fix Plus. Like, there's a way to revive a shadow like this. I'm being real with myself, and I know that I'm not going to do that. I have too much product that I'm testing constantly. Oh my gosh, and I forgot. This shade also, I completely forgot about this. This shade like stains. So I'm trying to get it off my hand as quickly as possible so that for the rest of this video, my hand is not stained. It doesn't help that it also like has a Cheeto dust look to it. All right, I think that we did pretty good with that. However, I am certainly keeping all three of these shades. They are absolutely fantastic. So let's first start with Canyon. This is the one that I haven't used in a while, and I can definitely tell because again, like the top layer gets a little stiff, but then you just press further down and there's pigment there. These are just they last. They go onto the skin really smoothly. There's good pigmentation there, but then they set down and they, like you can see here, they set. Not for, I think, the faint of heart, I would say. Like, if you want something super budge proof, if you have very oily eyelids, I can see this just really, really working for you. However, if your eyelids are more dry, probably not like my favorite formula for dry skin. But when I want something to stay in place, I can really depend on these, especially like if I'm doing a smoky wing, like these work really well as smoky wing colors. And the one that I've used the most is Sand Dune. And I use this as basically a shadow to set my crease so that my concealer and all of my shadows I put on top don't crease. So beautifully reliable. It essentially works as that base shadow. These are creamier than the Merit, but they are a little bit, I don't know if waxy is the right word, but it does feel like there are more waxes in this than the Merit. These just have a little bit more oomph. And these kind of set down to like a very budge-proof finish, like heavy duty finish, whereas the Merits go down to more of just like a classic powder finish. I'm going to keep both of those and let me give you a swatch of Plateau really fast. See, like these are no joke, great pigmentation. And I can already feel it. Yeah, like it's almost already completely dried down. Super beautiful. So here are the 4 shades that I have from Bodyography. I have Off the Hook, which is absolutely my favorite. I have Sparkler, which is pretty, but maybe not my most favorite. I think you guys can kind of tell by this point that I have a type. I have the shade Prism, just this really pretty green brown. And then I also have the shade Stellar. So here are my 4 shades. I'm gonna first swatch Off the Hook. And like I mentioned, this is definitely my favorite. Look at that shade. It's just so pretty. That is the shade Off the Hook. You guys can probably see it's very similar to something like Oyster Pearl from Charlotte Tilbury. Definitely has like that same sort of vibe to it. The Bodyography formula, this formula opposed to something like the Hourglass, these have a lot more base pigment and they're a little bit looser, or the press of the actual product itself and the component is looser. So you get more impact, you get more pigment, more sparkle. But with that, it is more intense, have more general impact. And I think the glitters themselves are a little bit thicker, just the particles are a little bit larger, and it's not necessarily like a bad thing. They're not like chunky by any means. This shade is actually very close to Smoke from Hourglass too, and I also have that shade. I'll swatch it for you in a second. But this one is my favorite, so I am going to keep this one. Next, let's go ahead and swatch Sparkler. I haven't used this one a ton, but it is really, even swatching it, It's a lot prettier than I remember, and it's way more reflective than I remember. Actually very surprised at how pretty that is. I'm not again, it's just a shade like this is not something that I would typically reach for. So I'm honestly kind of surprised at how pretty and reflective this is. That is way more wet looking than I would have thought. And I feel like layering these two together could be magical. That was super surprising for me. Okay, so I am going to be keeping Sparkler. So I think that means that at least one of these needs to go. So Prism is more of a duochrome. It's beautiful again, but I don't find myself reaching for duochromes super often. Now this would be really pretty, like incorporated into, I don't know, like a smoky eye. Like, I mean, look at that. That kind of like green to brown shift is great, but I don't know. So my camera died yesterday and I lost a little bit of footage. I took that as a sign to start day 2 of filming. So we are on day 2 of filming today. Pretty sure I was talking about the Bodyography glitter pigments when my camera died, and I think we were talking about Stellar. And ultimately, what I decided to do is I am going to keep this shade. The reason being is that there is a really gorgeous champagne reflect to this, and it actually it has way more of the wet reflection of some of the other single shadows that I have. You know, it has a lot more of that than I remember. So I do think I am going to keep it. Also, I don't want to completely rid my entire collection of warm eyeshadows. Like, I think that this has enough peachiness that it will get along well with me. Okay, so Stellar is going to stay. I believe Off the Hook is obviously going to stay as well, but I think I already let you all know that it just, I'm not reaching for a duochrome like this very often. And truthfully, like it is so pretty, this kind of burnished brown undertone with the blue green. Like it is so pretty. I can see so many people absolutely loving it. And it just doesn't seem fair to like let it sit here. So I'm going to go ahead and declutter that, keeping Stellar and Off the Hook. I did decide to keep Sparkler. Really, really gorgeous. And I think I just need to pull it out and get some more use out of it. You can see like it easily goes a little bit translucent, which is why I think this doesn't look flat. There isn't just like a white base pigment to it that might detract from the contrast. Because this goes translucent, your skin tone kind of acts as that contrast and it ends up looking like very one with the skin in this really beautiful way. I'm very excited to use this. I can see like doing a simple smoky winged liner and then adding like a little bit of this all over the lid. I just see that being so pretty. So I'm excited to get some use out of this. So I actually have 5 different Hourglass scattered lights. I think that these are excellent for someone that really enjoys something a little bit smoother. So these are similar to the Bodyography glitter pigments, but these are more densely pressed and they're also the glitters are finer and I think they're just a little bit less pigmented. There's a little bit less of that strong pigmentation. Now, this is what happens if you don't keep the little plastic top thing. This thing, that is what happens when you don't keep it on there. So make sure that you do that. But let's first talk about this shade, which I believe is Ray. Yes. So Ray was my most used eyeshadow last year. You can see like how much use I got out of it. And I lost that plastic piece. I ended up throwing it into a makeup bag because I was using it so much. And then this is what happened. Nonetheless, this is still, I think, one of the best eyeshadows that I've ever used. Look at it. Oh my gosh. It is incredibly reflective, so smooth. It's just like a slightly deep, warm champagne with those beautiful fine glitters. And I like to think of this as like an ultra refined, like rich glitter. Like these really ooze luxury in a lot of ways. The smoothness of them and the shade selection is so freaking dialed in. This is obviously staying. I mean, obviously. Again, this was Best of Beauty 2023 in a very, very big way. And it works incredibly well as like a one and done eyeshadow. Yeah, Ray from Hourglass certainly staying in my collection. And of course, I immediately put it in the declutter bin. I think I need my coffee to start working here. Let's talk about these four other shades that I have. So this is the shade Burnish, which you can see I have like barely used. I have the shade Smoke, which is incredible. I have the shade Vivid, love that one. And then I also have the shade Rapture as well. Should I just pull out Ray just to give you guys kind of like a better idea of all the shades? So let's first swatch Smoke because this is my other favorite. Before I got really into Hourglass Ray, I was absolutely in love with Hourglass Smoke, and that's because it's pretty much like the typical Amanda shade. It's an absolutely beautiful taupe. I mean, incredible. It just goes with everything. You can build it up, or sheer it out. It's just one of those shades that is incredibly reliable, will also like go with everything. Elegant, smooth pigment. I mean, I can't even stress it enough. These do feel luxurious. There are a lot of like really good makeup formulas out there now, you guys. These have really stood the test of time. And again, there are even affordable options that are similar to this because I think Hourglass focused on the quality, the smoothness, and the color selection. That is ultimately what has made these actually, I think, in a way, pretty timeless and worth the money for me. Smoke is absolutely staying in my collection. So Smoke is staying, obviously. Ray is staying. As I'm praising Hourglass for shades, I'm also gonna like call out the shades that I don't like, which is not this one. Vivid is incredible, and Vivid is, it kind of functions in a similar way to Velvet from Victoria Beckham for me. It's a beautiful green gold, and this is way thinner than the Victoria Beckham lip lusters. You see, they just sit even closer on the skin, the texture's thinner, and the glitters are finer. And also, these aren't like as insanely pigmented as those ones are either. But Vivid is absolutely incredible. And again, I like it because it feels like color, but it also feels like a very effortless kind of wearable color. I just love it. I love it so much. And I can see Ray and Velvet also going so well together for a look. But anyway, this one, really excited to pull it out, especially in the fall. One of my favorite green eyeshadows that I own. But I think these two shades are gonna go. I'm pretty sure, like, if I could guess, I don't think I bought this. I think it must have come in PR. I mean, you guys, like, you know I wouldn't buy that, right? Like, that's not a shade I would reach for. And it's been, like, barely touched. But I have friends that would like go crazy over this. So I'm gonna go ahead and declutter that. And honestly, this Rapture shade is pretty, but I just, gosh, I just don't reach for shades like this. The glitters in here are also super fine. It's even more reflective actually than Burnish is. It's very pretty, but you know, I would reach for Ray way more often than either of these. So I think that's why like ultimately they need to go. but someone else is going to be so freaking excited to get these. So decluttering those two shades, and then these three shades from Hourglass are going to be staying. Kaja Beauty bentos. So these, again, they're not like technically single shadows. I guess they're more of like a palette or a quad, but the thing is that they fit in the same kind of space that a single eyeshadow would. So that is why I keep them with my single eyeshadows, and that's why we're talking about them today. So I have 4 different Kaja bento boxes. I have, or they're called beauty bentos. I have peach madeleine, spiked ginger, rose water, and chocolate dahlia. Chocolate dahlia is definitely my favorite, and I know I'm going to keep this one, so we're going to start with it. You have this really beautiful shimmer shade on top, gorgeous matte in the middle, and then another beautiful chocolate at the bottom. Really pretty sparkle at the top. It's kind of like peachy. Then I would typically put this matte into the crease, and then I would probably put that chocolate shade as like a smoky liner on the outer corners. So that is that trio. So pretty. And it is like an all-inclusive look, which I think is beautiful. So this one's going to be staying. I don't know. I think one of these needs to go, but I do think I'm going to keep spiked ginger. So at the top, you have this beautiful peachy shade. So pretty. And I really like the matte formula. It's very easy to work with. Then we have this gorgeous soft copper shade. And then look at that brown. It's kind of like a red undertoned brown. This is again one of these like all-inclusive looks that are just so freaking fantastic. Absolutely beautiful on green eyes, and I love how thin they are on the eyes as well. This is a good one. Keeping that. Okay, but one of you has got to go. Okay, so this is Peach Madeleine. All right, right off the bat, I'm starting to remember. I really do like this formula from Kaja, this really like densely pressed thin glitter. And of course, like I love the mattes. However, these like really chunky glitters up at the top, they're insanely creamy. They kind of go down to like, you see, they like go down to almost a cream. You have to kind of like warm it up with your finger. But for me, I don't reach for that kind of a shade. See, that shade is gorgeous. That middle shade, I love that. And you can even see the difference on my hand. I think it's a really good representation of what I reach for versus what I might not reach for as much. This is beautiful and incredibly creamy, but sometimes if you're not careful, it can look a bit thick on the eyelids. Whereas when you have something with less creamy base pigment that is in general like a thinner texture, you don't have to worry about this building and kind of chunking up. And then this like peachy shade is beautiful. Like I would wear that as a blush any day. But this as a whole, I think someone else would get more use out of it. So this is going to go. And honestly, Rosewater, I remember Rosewater being beautiful, but oh no. This little mirror came out. And honestly, I'm not gonna risk having shattered glass in this. So I'm just going to throw out the mirror. Look at that. Already, yeah, already that is a much thinner texture and in line with something that I would like. Oh, that's really pretty. But what is this middle shade about? Lilac kind of shade, maybe? Oh, I'm into that. I'm into this. You know, I don't reach for like a pink, something like decidedly pink like that a lot. Oh, this trio is all sparkles. That is wild. Not all of Kaja's beauty bentos are like that. You guys, look at that. Wow. I can see combining these three all over the eyes being like such an insane, like smoky, vivid, like pink purple eye. Like that, I feel really inspired by that color story, and that's great. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and keep Rose Water, I think. Wow, I'm really, really glad that I uh again, like reminded myself of what I have. I'm gonna go ahead and keep that one. Next, let's talk Sisley. So these are three of their Les Fido ombres. And I have a couple that I use a lot, and then there's one that I don't use a lot. So Silky Chestnut has kind of been like the hidden gem. It is this formula, it feels like a pressed gel, almost like a slurry formula. So it's like wet gel and then they bake it to make it a powder. That is this kind of texture. So Silky Chestnut is incredibly silky and it kind of like when you blend it onto the eyes, it kind of warms up and looks, again, it just looks very silky. There's a touch of a purple to it that I think is really pretty as well. But there's also this shade Sparkling Topaz. This one is pretty if you want a little bit more drama. I mean, you guys can see that is like pretty classic Amanda as far as shades I go for. So, so pretty. I really gotta pull these back out and use them a little bit more. And there isn't really a ton of glitter to these. There's a little bit of glitter and Sparkling Topaz. This is a satin. Silky Chestnut is a satin, so there's no glitter in that. But I also have this shade right here, which is Glow Pearl. And I wish I had picked out another shade. I just don't think this shade is for me. I mean, it's very golden and there's not a ton of base pigment to it, which is nice, but it's just not a shade that I'm really reaching for. Again, really pretty, and like I can imagine this line especially being really good for mature eyelids and mature skin, especially like the Silky Chestnut shade. I just see that being a really pretty one and done. But I don't think that this one is worth the cash. I think you could find this kind of product in a lot of other formulas for much cheaper. I mean, already like the Kaja bentos are giving, you know, a better bang for your buck than this is. So I think I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. And then I'm going to keep these two from Sisley. These are a real throwback for me. So the Revlon Color Stay eyeshadows as well as the Color Tattoos from Maybelline. That I'm pretty sure that they still exist. I actually bought a new Revlon Color Stay shadow because my other one dried out. So if that tells you anything, I really do love it. But let me give you guys some swatches of these two shades. This formula in between the two is very similar. Now, Maybelline also has a matte version, and Revlon also has a matte version of these cream eyeshadows. I would not recommend going with the Maybelline as far as a matte shadow goes in this formula. However, the Revlon, those are good and they're great for like a base shadow if you want something affordable and to make everything last longer on your eyelids, almost like, you know, an eye base or an eye primer. But these two shades are pretty friggin' similar. So this is Caramel from Revlon. Beautiful. And you can see it's just so sophisticated, very easy, silky on the eyes, no chunky glitter, just a perfect kind of everyday, throw it on the lids, effortless eye look. Very pretty as a one and done. And I think it would look very brightening if you have a deeper skin tone, or if you're light like I am. This is also just a very soft, defining shade. Great formula. They do dry up eventually, so I did have to replace this, but it did last me like a few years. I've got to be honest here. And then Maybelline High Roller is very similar. You can see this one has dried up a little bit. But you could also use, again, like a little bit of a MAC Fix Plus to like get this going again. But this is a little bit deeper, but just as gorgeous. Very reminiscent of like Oyster Pearl from Charlotte Tilbury. I love both of these, and these are like some of my favorite affordable one and done eyeshadows, and they still are just so, so pretty. Maybe I should do like an updated favorite one and done eyeshadow video and show you guys all of these shadows in the eyes. Let me know if you'd like to see that. If you're listening and that sounds good to you, please drop me a comment so I know that that's of interest. But yeah, both of these are going to be staying in my collection. Really love them both. Next, let's talk about these Shiseido eyeshadows. So these are the Pop Powder Gel eyeshadows, and I have Suru Suru Taupe as well as Haru Haru Silk. I had really high hopes for these, and I don't think they're bad. I don't think that they're bad. I just think I have other products already in my collection that I love more, so it makes it difficult for me to reach for them. Now, I really do like this shade, this taupe shade. I mean, that's really pretty. It has like that kind of purpley undertone that I just find I really gravitate towards. And then the Horu Horu Silk shade is also, I mean, look at that. It's incredibly smooth. They're just good quality eyeshadows in general. It's hard because I feel like, swatching these out, I'm like, oh, they look really pretty, but I don't really want to part with them. Maybe I just need to give them another shot. So I think for now, I'm going to keep them. But if I kind of keep going through my collection and there's others that I just am gravitating way more towards, I'm gonna like kind of check throughout the video. If it feels like I'm not gonna actually follow through with using these, then I'm just gonna declutter them. Oh my gosh. I never knew that these like magnetized together. That's kind of nice. Well, I guess they both have the magnetic closures, so the magnets kind of like magnetize like that. I don't know if that's intentional or not, but it is fun. I am going to go ahead and declutter this smoky mauve shade from MAC. It's very pretty. I'm just not reaching for it. Beautiful. I love the tone of it. It just has a really, really nice tone, but it goes like a little bit frosty on me for some reason, and I'm not really sure why it does that. So it makes it, I end up kind of reaching for other things that I am not going to get that look with, but it's so beautiful. Like I know someone else can get more use out of this. So I'm gonna go ahead and declutter that one. And I'm also going to declutter my very last M Cosmetics Cosmic Pearl eyeshadow, and this is the shade Star Child. I said, okay, I'm gonna keep one for the library, just so I can reference this formula. But like, it's not happening. No one is talking about these. I don't find myself needing to use this as like a library item. Now, if you guys aren't familiar with what like my makeup library is, it's products that I don't necessarily absolutely love, but they're items that I feel like I'm going to need to reference, whether it's a formula or a color. And in general, I'm trying to be a little bit more picky about what products I'm really keeping in the makeup library. I think paring down my collection as a whole is something I'm trying to accomplish right now. And this is just something that I don't see needing within my makeup library. It's a beautiful shade. And this was like, as far as all the shades went, this was one of my favorites, but I also thought that just this shade selection was kind of odd on these. The I think like the marketing was very like cosmic, but in the process they kind of went away from what I think a lot of their other palettes typically have, which is like a good selection of neutrals, and they didn't really have that within that collection. So I was kind of disappointed by that. I would love to see them come out with more neutral shades, maybe like a boring brown with a cool shift to it. I don't know. Either way, I think I'm going to go ahead and declutter this one. Unfortunately, it looks like the snap closure is not working properly, so I need to keep that in mind. Also going to declutter this little NARS single in stud. I know it's broken, and I know someone else will be happy to repress it. It's pretty, but I don't think that they even have it anymore. It's kind of this, it's like a gorgeous green gunmetal. I mean, it's really pretty, but I don't know. NARS is kind of going through something. I think they're like discontinuing a lot of products and then like reintroducing them. I'm not positive what's going on with them. This is beautiful though, and I know that someone would be able to repress it and use it like all the time. I've been putting on this skin utility gel from Prequel. If you deal with like sensitized skin, this is really good. It acts like as a protectant, and through like days of filming this video and wiping swatches off of one hand, my hand would typically be in really bad shape, but this has really been keeping everything in check. This is the gel version, but they also have like a cream that's a little bit closer to like Sickle Fate from La Roche-Posay. Do a lightning round of products I'm thinking about decluttering. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's start here for now. So this is definitely going to go. It's from Decay. I really wanted to love this one. And it is a Japanese formula, and typically like a cream eyeshadow with this kind of texture would get along really well with me. It's kind of like a squishy mousse, but for some reason it just goes very flat. I think I just like didn't pick the right shade. I think if I had another shade, I'd probably get along better with it. So, um, not opposed to trying out another shade from this brand, especially because the texture and the formula is really nice. I just think that, you know, this shade in particular might be just missing something. So, gonna go ahead and declutter this. Actually, pretty similar texture is the Prismetal Chrome Mousse from JCat, and this is Chrome Crusher. This is a really pretty one. And you know, it's actually held up really well. Still has like a good spreadability to it. You know what? I think I'm gonna keep this one for now. Gunmetal with the sparkle. See, I'm gonna reach for this one more than I would reach for NARS Stud, just because this is so much easier for me to pick up and put on. And with so much makeup, I am kind of prioritizing that at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and keep the Prismetal. Really like these. They give you just such a like intense chrome foiled finish. This is Amber Rush from L'Oreal. I think I'm going to declutter this. Similar style to the Hourglass or the Bodyography glitter pigments. This is pretty, but again, there's just somewhat of like a flatness to it. I wish there was more of like a reflect within it to make it kind of pop a little bit more. I think the formula is beautiful, and I think even the color is beautiful. I just want more pop with an overlay of glitter. Someone else is going to love this one though, so going to declutter this. And lastly, this was kind of in the makeup library. This is the Sequins Glitter Glam eyeshadows from Marc Jacobs. You guys, this is old, but I kept it because I wanted to be able to reference this formula. But at this point, you know, similar thing to what we've been talking about, I'm just not reaching for it anymore as a reference product or even using at this point. But it doesn't mean it's not beautiful. I mean, that's insane. And I'd love to see Marc Jacobs come back. I've kind of heard rumors of that happening, but I would love to see them come out with these again. but I think that this needs to go. I wasn't really using it because no one could get it, and that kind of made it sit here. Let's talk Urban Decay Moondust. So these were like the 4 original ones that I had. Actually, I also had another Space Cowboy that I broke. And this is the one that I bought when I was so afraid of them discontinuing it. They didn't though, which is good. But these are the 4 like OG Urban Decay Moondust shadows. I don't really say, I don't, maybe I can part with a couple of these, but these are a little bit of like a nostalgic kind of item for me. Let me give you guys some swatches of these, and then we'll talk about the new Moondust shadows that I have. This is the shade Diamond Dog. I have heard rumblings that Urban Decay is coming out with some new shades. Potentially Diamond Dog will be featured. But the reason I keep this is, look at it. It's amazing, and it is different than Lithium, which is this shade. You can even see them like right next to each other. Diamond Dog is more of like an espresso deep shade with these fine, beautiful sparkles. This is one that I absolutely love. I don't wear it a ton because, again, I know that you guys can't get it, but it's one that I would absolutely not part with. And that I think says a lot because typically when I have something that you guys can't wear, I have to love it a lot in order to keep it in my collection, but this one is certainly staying. I do also have the OG Solstice as well, and it this one's leaning a lot more purple than I remember. Maybe it's just like the lights. But yeah, this is also one of the they did bring back Solstice. And then this is the OG Space Cowboy. The formulas are incredibly similar. I think maybe the new formula is like a touch slippier, like it has more slip in general, but not anything like super noticeable. So OG Space Cowboy, definitely keeping that. I mean, if you guys are new to my channel, then you might not know like the Amanda and Space Cowboy lure, but it's kind of like one of my favorite beauty products of all time. But yeah, so I'm gonna keep this one, and then, I think I'm gonna go ahead and part with Glitter Rock. It's really pretty. I mean, nice, but I'm going to be reaching for these two so much more often, and it's gorgeous. I don't know, I feel like someone else could maybe still use it, especially because I decided to keep the Rosewater quad from Kaja, and like I feel like the Rosewater quad is kind of giving a very similar vibe to this, so I should just keep one. I'm gonna keep the Kaja, and I'm going to declutter the glitter rock. I wonder if they'll come out with a new version of this too. These 3 are going to be staying in the collection. And let's talk about the 3 new Moondust shadows that I have from Urban Decay. So I have Lithium, an absolute favorite. I have Space Cowboy, of course. You can see I've gotten a ton of use out of that. And I've already like gone through one of them before that. And then I also have Wild Dipper. I did have, I think, like all of the new ones that they came out with, but I decluttered a couple. Like I had Cosmic. I don't think Cosmic is anywhere as beautiful as Space Cowboy. It just isn't quite as reflective. So yeah, let me give you guys some swatches of these. You have Space Cowboy. I don't know if you guys could even tell from like the way that's swatched. This, yeah, like these have a little bit more glide to them than the other formula, but again, it's not like so drastically different. We have Lithium, one of my favorite single shadows ever. Like absurdly beautiful. Absurdly beautiful. That's why I talk about them like over and over and over because they're just that good. They just, if I were to come out with makeup, it would be like this. So, it's like just kind of hard to beat. And this is Wild Dipper. Wild Dipper is pretty, but The formula, I don't know if you could even see that. It's a little bit drier than these two, but nonetheless very pretty. And I am going to keep Wild Dipper, especially because it reminds me of some of the discontinued products that I really love and can't access anymore. And I'll talk about those soon. Like, if you are a Natasha Denona Chroma Crystal Top Coat kind of person, if you remember that product, I loved that. And it is no longer. What a freaking bummer. So yeah, if you still have not tried the Urban Decay Moondust shadows, this is what you're missing. And I will definitely do like a full review of the new ones if they do come out with new ones. I could have sworn someone told me that they were doing that. So I will keep you guys posted. Okay, let's talk Colourpop Super Shock Shadows. These have been an affordable favorite for me for a very long time. Something though that is unfortunate about them is the colors go in and out of stock very easily and pretty quickly, and then they don't come back for a long time. So it's difficult for me to actually gauge whether or not anyone can actually get these shades. You know what I mean? One shade that I know for a fact that they do keep stocked is Ritz from Colourpop, and it's also like my favorite. Very, very similar to Space Cowboy from Urban Decay. I would say if you prefer like a cream texture, this is the one that I would go for. But it does have like a creamier finish. It's not going to last quite as long, but it's like, I don't know. This is one of the only products, though, in recent memory that I could actually even refer to as a dupe. Like, it's a dupe, just slightly different textures. So if you see Ritz, if you haven't picked it up, just know this is like one of my favorite Colourpop products ever, and it's certainly a top recommendation for me. So I'm going to keep that one for sure. First of all, let's talk about one of my favorites, which is Colourpop Cosmic Charge. This has been a long-time favorite of mine because it just oozes luxury. It's kind of like a pressed glitter. It has dried out a little bit over time, but look at it. Just absolutely fantastic. Such an incredible glitter. And it's even better when it's fresh because there's a little bit more smoothness. It's not quite as creamy as Ritz, for example. And a good context is that if you look on the back of your Super Shock shadow, this is the Ultra Glitter, and not all of the formulas within Colourpop's line are the same. So for example, this is adaptogen. You can see right here it says Ultra Metallic. So there are different formulas. They're not all going to be the same. It's gonna really pain me to do this, but I think I need to part with Cosmic Charge. They rarely restock it, and this is drying out. Again, I'm really trying to be good about this. Just know that if they do decide to restock it, like it's one of my favorite affordable shadows of all time. Now, the shade Tassel from Colourpop is a dupe for Cosmic from Urban Decay. Very bright white sparkle. And it gives like this kind of pretty like sugar plum fairy snowflake effect. There is that like white base pigment to it. And honestly, I have liked it more than Cosmic because of the texture, but I know I'm still not like really reaching for it. I'm trying to be good, and I just think that someone else could get more use out of it. So I'm gonna declutter it. This is the shade Plume from Colourpop. This has been a favorite of mine, and oh, I mean, just look at that. Insane. Just Colourpop does such an incredible job. I am going to go ahead and keep Plume. It still has some good shine to it. It's not dried out yet, and I know that they keep it in stock at Ulta, which any shades that they decide to stock at Ulta tend to actually be in stock because they have contracts to fulfill, because they want to try and keep their retailer happy, obviously. So I'm gonna go ahead and keep Colourpop Plume. It is very, very beautiful. Adaptogen is like this really cool kind of grungy green shade. It reminds me quite a bit of a Chanel shade that we'll probably talk about later, Platinum Bronze, and it is just oozing luxury. Like, Colourpop is really, really good with their Super Shock shades. They've come out with so many. Some of these shades are just pretty freaking iconic. Like, okay, for example, that's adaptogen. Beautiful, right? But you take a little bit of Ritz on the finger like this and put it on top. Look at that. That's absurd. It's so pretty. Anyway, that's why like Ritz and Space Cowboy is such like a little like final touch kind of product, just like makes any shadow really come to life. But anyway, so keeping Ritz obviously and keeping adaptogen. This is definitely a keeper. And I am absolutely covered covered in glitter. This is a little quirky. I know that they do still restock this. This one, though, is like pretty shattered from what I remember. Yeah, that is that is shattered in all of the ways. But here's the thing with the ColourPop shadows, like they are so malleable that I feel like I could repress this like really easily. You know what? Why don't we try doing it right now? Like, you guys are here. So this is what I would do with something like this. I'm just gonna try and find something that's around that same size. You know, that's what would make this the most easy, but to be a little bit more precise, I'm just gonna use the top of my mascara and I'm just gonna like slowly press this down all around. I could also add like a little bit of micellar water if I wanted to like really do this the right way. See like how good that looks already? Just like really, really pressing that down. And I'm glad I'm doing this now with you guys so that you can get a better feel if you've never tried this texture. Like that is obviously super creamy because you're actually able to like do what I just did. You know what? Now that I did that, I actually see myself being able to use this more because I don't have to worry about it like completely shattering every time I go to put it on. Granted, like I definitely think this one has dried out a little bit, but look, I mean, it's still beautiful. And thankfully, this is one of those shades that e.l.f. Still stocks a lot. And again, isn't this giving like Hourglass scattered light? Just really beautiful. Okay, so a little quirky from Colourpop is staying. And by the way, I will leave links down below to all of the products I'm talking about in today's video. Of course, I want you guys to just make the best purchasing decisions for you. If you do end up wanting to purchase anything, using any of my links does help to make my videos possible. So thank you to everyone that does that and wants to and everyone that supports my channel in that way. I do truly, truly appreciate it. Last but certainly not least, we have this shade, which I think is like 21 something. Do you see how do you see how it's like completely worn off? I think it's called like 21 something. This is similar to Plume, but not quite as pigmented. I'm just gonna swatch it right here for you guys. That is really pretty. You can see Plume is right there. It's way more pink. There's a little bit more peach and gold to that shade. It's very, very pretty. I can see a lot of people liking it. But I think I do see myself reaching for Plume more. So I think I am going to declutter it. But this is a very good one. You can see I definitely I got some use out of it. So I have this shadow from Kiko. It's the Long Lasting Wet and Dry eyeshadow. This is the shade 200. I love that you have this little spot to put your finger. It's really satisfying. It's really, really silky and smooth. I really want to get some more use out of this and also try it wet. Take a little bit of my micellar water. Oh God, it's happening. It's happening. And let's see what this has got. So here's the difference between the wet and dry effect. I mean, is it just me or like, I mean, I really like both. I'm not mad at either. I don't know if I've ever used this though on the eyes when it was wet, so I'd be interested in seeing how it looks. For now, I am going to keep it. I also have this Eyes to Kill Stellar Shadow from Armani. This is kind of a hidden gem that no one really talks about. This is the shade number 2, and these are beautiful. They're kind of like this like kind of squishy putty formula, except really rich and soft, and I can just see someone again with like that wants something subtle but sparkly and twinkly. Like if you are afraid of glitter but you still want to twinkle, these are really beautiful. They have this really smooth kind of texture, very skin loving. You feel good about putting this on the eyes because it's not going to exaggerate dryness or texture. Really a very, very pretty one. Good for the kind of less is more makeup lover. I think that these are really good. So I'm going to keep this one. I have this About Face glitter and Out of Body. And I was hoping this was going to be a really pretty like wet look eyeshadow. And here's the thing, is like it is a really pretty wet look glitter, but the problem is that it just goes chunky like really quickly. I can't put my finger on why. Let me give you guys a little bit of a swatch here. This is just it very thinly put onto the back of the hand. Am I thinking of the right one? Because that one, like a very little amount looks very pretty on the hand. Like that looks really good, doesn't it? Like just looks very mirror-like. I'm on the fence. I think I'm on the fence about this one because if my memory serves me right, it goes chunky very fast. But maybe I'm just using too much. Like, I don't know if I've ever used so little. I think I'm gonna give it like one last try. One last try. Hold me to it, guys. Hold me to it. These hands are going through it. They're going through it. So remember when I was talking about adaptogen from Colourpop? This is the product that I was referencing from Chanel. It's Pantene Bronze, and it's, oh no, it's completely dried out now. Let's see if the micellar water works on this. Why am I going like, I feel like I'm just like slowly going feral as this video continues. Let's see if that works to revive it at all. I think so. I think that did something. What do you guys think? Here's the thing though, guys. Either way, like ultimately, Chanel doesn't make this anymore, I'm pretty sure. If I look online and they still make it, I will keep it. I'm pretty sure that they don't. It is beautiful, but I know I'm already keeping one discontinued product from Chanel, and I just don't know if I should be keeping all of the discontinued products that I love from Chanel. So for now, I'm going to say no. If for some reason I can find it online and they're still producing it, then I will save it from the declutter bin. This is the other item that I know I'm keeping from Chanel, which is Chanel New Moon. One of the most beautiful single shadows in existence. In existence. It's perfect. And, oh God, like look at that, guys. It is absurdly beautiful. The twinkle, it's the size of the glitter, it's the undertone, it's all of it. It's perfection. And I just could never part with it because even if you guys can't get it, I will like I will wear it any other time. I actually did find a combo that has ended up duping this, but it's multiple shadows. I'll leave that video link down below if you guys want to see it. There is, for some reason, someone from the Chanel team ever sees this video, please, we are begging you to bring this back. And by we, I mean me. But also, I mean, I was just talking to one of my subscribers, a friend that I've talked to for a very long time, Stephanie. Hi, Stephanie, if you're watching. Chanel New Moon is not just a favorite of mine. A lot of people really love it. And her and I were literally just talking about it. Shall we talk about these Flavido Albedo eyeshadows? I have a few here. I have Cool Bronze, I have Rose Quartz, and then I also have Sky. I think these are pretty, but ultimately, I just haven't found myself reaching for them a ton. I think I know already I can pass along Rose Quartz because it's just not one that I'm really reaching for. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's pretty, but maybe just not a perfect shade for me. So that one is gonna go. I do like this shade, Sky, and I like the texture of this because it's powder, but it kind of has a little bit more oomph to it. And it's nice because, you know, you can wear it really sheerly or it can be built up. It definitely isn't shy of that pigment. And truth be told, I'm like a big lover of a sky blue like this on the eyes. I think with like a small little bit of wing liner, it just is very, very cool. So I am going to keep this shade Sky, and I'm on the fence about this one. Let's give it a swatch. This one is creamier than Rose Quartz. It is really pretty. Think, I am on the fence about it. I think let's go ahead and keep it for now. But if I'm not getting more use out of it in the next couple of months, then I might pass it along. It is pretty. I've worn it before and really enjoyed it. Also, I just like love this packaging. I think it's absolute like perfection. And I love that it's recyclable too. So next up, let's talk about a couple of these like kind of sparkly toppers that I have. This is the Crystal Reflector from Makeup by Mario. Absolutely love this one. And then I also have Silver Lake, the Heaven's Dew All Over Glimmer from Stila. These are essentially the same product, guys. The Makeup by Mario is slightly drier than the Stila, but look at it. It's just that perfect wet sparkle. I kind of swatched that a little bit messily, but you guys get the point. I think that it's beautiful. It looks gorgeous, just like tapped all over the eyes. It's definitely one that I love. And the Stila is, again, just a little bit of a creamier, more like putty-like formula. And they look like pretty much virtually the same. So you don't need both. I think the particles of glitter are a little bit more diverse in the Makeup by Mario, where I see more like uniformity in the Stila. But really, either way, I think you can't go wrong. And if you want a product like this, I would just go with, you know, like whichever one is on sale at the time. They're super, super pretty. I'm going to be keeping both. I don't think I need both, but I can see it being nice to be able to reference both products. So that is kind of like a library kind of choice there. Next we have Kier Weiss, and this is, what shade is this? Oh my gosh, I always forget what shade is in here. And then I'm left like leaving you guys hanging. Oh, that's great. I got it out. This is my favorite one. This is the shade Alluring. And I have a couple others, but I just don't know where they've run off to. If you love a gold that is more like an antique gold, this kind of shade is more difficult to find than you would think. It has a really beautiful, creamy texture. Admittedly, does not last quite as long as I would like. And I honestly, I should pull out my Kjaer Weis blushes. I haven't worn them in a while, and they're really, really beautiful. But yeah, I think that the shadows are very nice. I'm gonna keep this mostly for the shade. I do wish the formula was a little bit more long lasting, but going to keep this for now. And I do like, I personally enjoy that Kira Weiss is a little bit more conscious with, you can choose the packaging that you want with their luxury items, and that does affect like how much it costs. I think that's really nice. So Bobbi Brown Moonstone is also very similar to the Crystal Reflector and the Dew product from Stila, except this is more gold and there's just a little bit more base pigment. It's very, very pretty. I like to keep this because sometimes I want more like of something decidedly gold rather than more silver white. And this one definitely has more of a strong golden tone to it. You can definitely see it in the packaging itself. This is a very dry formula. Honestly, formula and color wise, I do think I prefer the Makeup by Mario. Like I don't know, I use this more, it fits more of my preferences, but this one is still really nice to have. So I am going to keep this one for now. Shall we talk about some Asian beauty products that I have? I have a lot of single shadows that I've been slowly trying, and I wanted to just share with you guys my entire collection, and we'll just go through all of them. Some are like absolutely better than others. So here they all are. Let's just first start off like on a high note. These are the Judy Doll Soft Shine Color eyeshadows. And they are some of the best affordable eyeshadows that you will find on the market. They are absolutely beautiful. This shade is G44. The formulas are very similar to the Urban Decay Moondust shadows. I mean, if you told me that was a Moondust shadow, I would believe you. Um, Absolutely fantastic. So, so good. And then I also have the shade G03, and this one is also so pretty. That's more of like a beautiful wet charcoal color. It's not like the base pigment is too strong for it to be like Diamond Dog from the original line. I was hoping it would be close to that. This has too much base pigment for that, but it's still like stunning. As far as a wet effect smoky eye, like look no further. That is beautiful. Little black dress or some trousers. I mean, like you are in business. As far as Asian beauty eyeshadows, this is a brand that way more people should be talking about, and these eyeshadows are some of my most favorite and really my entire collection, and they're affordable. So I'll leave a link down below to these because they are a little bit harder to find, honestly. Another favorite that I have is this shade. This is Glam Brown from Clavu. And this is like, it's not going to be surprising to you guys why I love this. It's very in line with a lot of the eyeshadows that I absolutely adore. Like, look at that. It's perfection. It is perfection. And you know what? I'm sitting here looking at this. This is so affordable. It is so freaking beautiful. I think I'm going to go ahead and declutter this shadow from Flavido Albedo because take a look for a second at this shadow and now look at the Flavido shadow. Do you see the difference? Like, it's subtle but impactful. There's nothing wrong with this, but I know in my heart of hearts that I'm going to reach for that way more often. So I do think I'm going to declutter this. I'm trying to be better. But yeah, this Glam Brown Clavu shade is absolutely stunning. Another favorite as far as my Asian beauty stash. Let's continue on. So this Holika Holika eyeshadow, it's the shade number 2. You guys, I've been keeping this for when I do like a worst K-beauty product video, and that video never happens. And this is like literally looks like dry eyelid skin. So gross when I put it on. So this is just gonna go now. I'm also going to go ahead and declutter this Misha eyeshadow. It's their Prism eyeshadow. And what shade is this? It's Glitter Prism. And kind of similar vibe to the last one that we swatched. It's not anything special, honestly. Like I can see some people liking it. Just for me, I'm expecting way more and I'm not reaching for it. I like the multi-dimensional glitter. In concept, it's pretty, but someone else can get more use out of it. However, I do like this Holika Holika My Fave Piece eyeshadow. This is the Glitz eyeshadow in 03 Moonshine. This is, I know it's not like pretty to look at these, but it's so easy for me to check like all of the all of the details of the products when I keep this on. So I apologize if it's not like super aesthetic, but I love this one. This is the kind of shine I'm looking for. That is way more impactful, so smooth, glittery, glistening. That is what I want. And it's still affordable. So I always like to say with, whether it's K beauty, whether it's affordable, whatever, just because it's affordable doesn't mean that we shouldn't still look for quality and look for something that we love. And that's always been my approach on my channel. I don't say that affordable makeup is just good enough. I want to love it, and this is definitely one that I love. Also going to keep this Full Shot Full Stone Glitter Shadow. What shade is this? This is the shade Rent the Sun 05. And I typically just would not be into a shade like this, but it's really nice. Very warm, and similar kind of texture to the Holika Holika, a little bit drier and thinner, but the shimmer is gorgeous. If you are into these kinds of shades, if you're a warm tone person, this shade is beautiful. And I'm honestly really interested in trying out some other shades from this line because the formula is very, very good. This is one product I'm keeping mostly for the library. This is the Misha Dewy Glossy Eyes in Honey Roast. The reason I'm keeping it for the library is the concept I think is really nice. I like that it is a cream shadow meant to give you like a glossy effect. I like that concept. So again, I'm keeping this more for like a research item, but admittedly, I don't think they look super glossy. At least this shade I don't think does, but I like the concept, so that's why I'm keeping it. And I think that, I get questions about this one a lot because obviously like a wet look sparkle or wet look eye is very much what I love. So to be able to reference this, I think is important for you all and it's good information. So I'm going to keep this one, though, just saying it's not like my absolute favorite, but I have some hope for some of the other shades. Some of the other shades seem a little bit more impactful as far as the wet effect. And I think I have room for at least one more eyeshadow swatch here. So this is from Mizon. This is the visualistic eyeshadow, and I want to get you guys up close to see this shadow. It's pretty insane. Look at that. There's so many like different glitters in here. It is like a pressed glitter. There's a little bit of creaminess, but you are basically just getting glitter impact with this one. And it is absolutely beautiful. So multidimensional and reflective. That is one that more people need to talk about. Truly, don't know if I've heard a single person talk about these, but they're fantastic. And again, this is the shade, what shade is this? This is Personal Champagne. Obviously going to be keeping that. And actually, I think we have room for one more swatch, which is great because it is saving my hands. This is the Air Mousse Eyes, and it is from a Toot House. It is the shade Date Picnic. You can see I really went to town on this one. It's really pretty. Super similar to Colourpop Super Shock Shadows, and it's just a really nice almost similar to like Hourglass Ray, maybe a little bit more warm toned, but if you are a fan of Ray and you want it in like a creamier formula, or if you just don't have access to Colourpop, but you happen to have access to a Toot House, these are beautiful. I love them. I think this is definitely another one of those K Beauty single shadows that I absolutely love. So, so happy that I found this one. Next up, we have a couple of eyeshadows from Bia. I have their eyeshadow in the shade 04. It's kind of like a satiny shade, similar again to like Pantene Bronze from Chanel. Really, really nice for that kind of effect. Super pretty. And then I also have the Bia Shade and Shadow in Red Bean. This one immediately caught my attention. It's really creamy and there's great pigmentation to it. And look at that color. Very unique. And you know, a lot of K-beauty eyeshadows tend to be more subtle as far as pigment. It just makes sense with what a lot of the looks are going for. But this one is not shy of pigment, and I've always really liked that about it. So these are going to stay in my collection for now. Very good. And then last but certainly not least, we have the Dazzling Light eyeshadow. I think it's from Mizon, I want to say, but I'll leave a link down to it below. And this is like, you see how creamy that is? Really an insane kind of formula. And it goes down to kind of this like putty texture with an absurd reflection, a liquid gold kind of vibe. I admittedly do not use it a lot, but because I love this formula so much, I'm keeping it to be able to reference. I think I might try and pick up another shade to see if I like another shade more because I like to be able to, recommend to you all other products that people aren't really talking about. And I think that this is one of those products that no one's really talking about. So I think I might keep it for now and then during my next like Stylevana or Yes Style order, I try out another shade because the formula is very, very promising. So let's talk about the Rituel de Fille Ash and Umber Eye. So this is the old formula and this is the new formula. Actually, some of these might be, okay, these are Celestial Spheres. We'll talk about these in a second, but I just want to focus on this formula. Actually, these are also Celestial Spheres. I didn't really realize that. This is the only Rituel de Fille shadow I have left in the old packaging. That's kind of crazy. Yeah, so they changed up the packaging. It's way easier to get to the product in this packaging because it's wider, so you can actually like stick your finger in here. And I also just realized that they give you more product now, so that's great. But you can see from that last one I just opened, they are more prone to shattering now. So it's kind of like, it's a toss-up. This is the shade Serpent de Mer, very deep charcoal shade, and just really oozes that sooty quality. See, if I'm gonna do like a charcoal or a gray, that little note of purple and sootiness and creaminess, like the way these melt on the eyes, I feel comfortable doing it with Rituel de Fille because Rituel de Fille does these kind of shades spectacularly. Like, do you see how dimensional that really is? It's never like what you see in here is never the whole story with Rituel de Fille. They just do it so well. I'm going to be keeping Serpent de Mer. Half Light is absolutely staying. This is one of the best one and done eyeshadows ever. And if you're not familiar with this formula from Rituel de Fille, one, like with my long nails right now, still not super easy to get a swatch out of these. So take with that what you will. But this formula is essentially like a powder mixed with pigment oils. And when they go onto the skin, they warm up in this really effortless, gorgeous way. They just have that je ne sais quoi kind of quality that I've always really, really enjoyed about them. And Half Light in particular just gives you this barely there soft definition. It's really a stunning, stunning eyeshadow. I've loved it for a very long time, and I'm not going to stop anytime soon. So, going to be keeping Half Light. I have the shade Fauna as well, and then Mineralia. I think I'm gonna declutter these two, I think. Fauna is beautiful, but I don't reach for these kinds of shades so often. Let me give you a little swatch. There's no doubt that it's beautiful. I'm just trying to be real with myself. I mean, God, so hard to part with something that looks like that. I'm gonna keep it. Please don't blame me. I have to. It's so pretty. Like those two layered, or all three of them, like this is a whole look. Oh God. But in that case, Mineralia needs to go. This is like the epitome of sooty luxury. This one's broken, obviously. But look at this. Look. Oh my God. Guys. I feel like the Ritual Defeat eyeshadows, they're just such a banger. You guys, I'm not getting rid of it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. It is not happening. It's not happening. I'll have to part with something somewhere down the line. All right, so that's that. However, here's the old packaging and the old formula. This is the shade Incantation. Is this still kicking? Put it up here. You know what it is? That's nice. Look at this, guys. And I know they still make this shade. There's a shine to these and this like sooty, undone, like soft grunge. It's fantastic. However, this one, I think has gone bad because it does smell different than it did when I originally got it. So unfortunately, I do have to get rid of it, but Incantation has always been one of my favorite shades. But I am gonna go ahead and say goodbye to this one. But let's continue on and talk about the Celestial Sphere eye soots from Ritual Defeat. So the Ashen Ember eye soots, that is way more of a, again, pigment mixed with oil kind of formula. These are like a cream eyeshadow mixed with an eye gloss. The shade Arania have not even really touched it because I'm not wearing red on my eyes. I'm not gonna wear red this red. It's just not, I don't think it's super flattering. My nails are getting so banged up in this video. I'm sorry about that. So this one is going to get passed along. I think I'm also going to pass along Angia. Um, and this one, again, it looks really pretty, but this is just not something that I'm going to reach for. Super stunning. You can see the glisten is both from the texture and because it's just like super reflective. So this one's gonna go. These two though are my OGs. So Serpens, it is this beautiful green gold gloss. And it sings on the eyes. Really good for those of you that aren't afraid of a little bit of creasing, but every time I wear it, people ask me, they're like, what is on your eyes? Holy crap. And yeah, it's this shade. Incredible reflection. Yeah, one of the best. Andromeda is a little bit more like stereotypically wearable. It's kind of like this silver with these pretty pink glitters throughout, and it's really, really pretty. I am, though, I'm not like really reaching for it a ton, so maybe I will go ahead and pass it along. If I'm going to wear one of these, it's almost always Serpents, so I might as well just keep the one that I love. And because I kept so many of the other eyeshadows, I should probably pass this along. Next up, we have the Wander Beauty Double Date eyeshadow. You guys, I haven't really like gotten too into this one. I think it's because this gold shade on top is like not my favorite. It's a bummer though because I really like this bottom shade, which is like this really nice kind of smooth, soft kind of milk chocolate. I think that there are some other folks in my life that could really give this the proper use that it deserves. So I'm gonna go ahead and declutter it. Let's talk about something that I'm still not over. It just does not make any sense to me. Why Charlotte Tilbury thought it would make sense to discontinue the Hypnotic Pop Shot eyeshadows. All of this work and effort into such an incredible formula, and then they just pull it out right from under us. Maybe they will bring them back, maybe they won't. It's hard for me to keep these when I know that I'm not going to be using them a lot. And I'll say it very quickly as to just rip the band-aid off. Oh my God. Don't do this to me today. Do not do this to me today. We are on like day 2 of filming this video, and I'm so close to not having any of these like completely break on me, and that was almost bad. But like I was saying, this shade, Smoky Quartz from Charlotte Tilbury, absurdly beautiful. Look at it. I don't even have the words to explain how beautiful this is. It's definitely similar to Chanel New Moon. The way the base pigment is light enough, the sparkles reflect incredibly. It's like Diamond Dog from Urban Decay, but better. And truth be told, I feel like this is kind of like a more unique version of like Lithium from Urban Decay. Though I still, like, absolutely love that one, but this one just has that kind of purpley note to it that is so unique. It's really, really beautiful. I am going to keep it, but, you know, these other shades I don't think need to stay in my collection, though they are all beautiful. I'll give you guys some quick swatches, and then I'm gonna give them to some folks that I think will get more use out of them. First of all, the shade Diamond Eyes, it's pretty. It's very pretty, but it is not the most unique shade out there. Like, we've seen a lot of shades that look like that today, and definitely not at the same price point for what I paid for that. And then we have the shade Rose Gold. Rose Gold is same thing, just very basic, not anything to write home about. At least again for like this kind of price, no, now I'm expecting this. Like when I get that, now I'm expecting magic for every single shade. And this one I will say is pretty magical. Emerald Eyes, look at that. Like how it's green and gold and also like kind of blue too. It's a good one. It's very pretty, but again, I'm more likely to reach for something like Velvet from Victoria Beckham. So this is going to go. So these 3 are going to leave the collection, and then I am going to keep my absolute beloved Smoky Quartz. I have this like wild dream that I'm going to bring back a formula that is anything like the Jaclyn Hill shimmer top coats or the Natasha Denona Chroma Crystal top coats, because now both have been discontinued. I was less upset about it when these were discontinued because then Jaclyn Cosmetics came out with these and now neither exist. So it's just a bummer all around. This is the original Natasha Denona Peach Chroma Crystal top coat. I'll give you guys a swatch. If if you have never had the pleasure of trying these, does it not like speak for itself? Even now, like even this being dried out a little bit, it still looks like that. You see how like I can't part with them because they make me giggle with excitement even just watching them. So peach is like certainly going to stay. I also have gray brown, and admittedly this one was like my smoky eye of dreams when I first bought it. Look at this. Like in it's hard to even describe the formula. It just feels like a very, very densely pressed cream powder that has like this wet feel in the finger. Oh, I'm keeping them. I'm keeping them. I'm keeping them. Someone please do us all a favor and bring back this formula. Or I don't know, someone offer me a collaboration. I don't have enough money to start my own makeup brand, guys. I really got to bring back this formula. And these are so similar. So this is the shade Tinsel. And Tinsel is essentially like so close to Gray Brown from Natasha Denona. Like these are dupes, right? They're close enough. They were close enough for me. Like I felt like, okay, well, you know, I have that one. At least I have that. Now I don't have anything. Now I have nothing. Yeah, I'm keeping this because I'm afraid that one is going to dry out and then I'm not going to have a reference for the formula anymore. And then I have the shade North Star. You know what? I'll pass along North Star because this one was never like super inspired to me. I mean, the formula still is, but like the color was just never one that I was reaching for a ton. Again, very, very pretty. But yeah, someone will love this and really, like really, really love it. So I will pass along this one. I'm gonna really make sure that's screwed on tight, but then keeping glassy, which is essentially the Natasha Denona peach shade, except within this formula. See, this is like absurdly fun for me to do this. Like it is so fun for me to play with makeup products and formulas that are incredibly innovative and beautiful. Just fantastic. So, you know, I parted with one. I at least did that for myself. And I gotta tell you guys, the bin right now, the declutter bin is getting pretty full. So I do feel good about that. Okay, my friends, let's talk about Moira. Moira is an interesting one. So I think let's first start off with this formula, which I think I'll probably declutter most of these. These are the Everlust Shimmer Cream Eyeshadows. I was hoping that these were going to be a dupe for my beloved Eyes to Mesmerize from Charlotte Tilbury. And I think they're meant to give that vibe, but I mean, look at that. It's a little flat, right? This is the shade Metallic Taupe. Again, I mean, I feel like this is clearly trying to be a dupe for Oyster Pearl. I also picked up the shade Copper, and Copper is no different. They just like something about them. They don't want to reflect like the way that I want them to, and they also do not last on the eyes. And I'm not really someone that struggles with super oily eyelids either. The shade Dazzling Brown is like the one shade I would recommend because it is, I think, trying to be close to Exaggerize from Charlotte Tilbury. So if you can still find this, I think that there is something nice about being able to find a shade that's similar to that one because, you know, Charlotte Tilbury discontinued it. Then I have the shade Mocha Bronze, which is, again, like, you know, trying to be Mona Lisa, or Chocolate Brown from Charlotte Tilbury. And I would say this one gets kind of close, but also this is my least favorite shade. So I think that one's going to go too. And then this one was by far the worst. This is the Green Olive Grove. I was wildly excited about this one. It's not it. It's not it. Just flat. And I just want more because I know I can get more, so I want more. So you know what? I think, you know what? I'll go ahead and keep one as reference, and I'm gonna keep Dazzling Brown to have a reference for this, but I'm not even sure if it's gonna last in my collection, to be honest. And all of these are going to get passed along. However, Moira did really well with these shadow pots. This one in Muse was my favorite, and as you can see, Muse has left the building. So that one needs to go. By the way, they're the Star Show eyeshadows. This is the shade Eureka. Eureka is gorgeous. These are pretty similar to like the Bodyography glitter pigments. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. So if you've been wondering about like, you know, what Moira products I do like, I definitely do like these. And this is the shade, what shade was this? Showtime. Something must have happened with these. I remember like a catastrophe kind of happened, but I don't know what exactly happened. That one is barely in the building with us. So I'm just gonna keep Eureka. Just know that I've tried a few shades and I have liked them. Oh, Tom Ford, why did you discontinue all of your cream eyeshadows? Why? You didn't need to do that. Platinum, an absolute cult classic from Tom Ford, discontinued. Why? Look at it. Look at it. It's fantastic. It's like one and done, effortless, chic, throw it on the eyelid, out the door, perfect definition. Why did you do that? I'm just going to keep saying that. By the way, I don't think I'm going to part with these, but I feel like maybe next declutter I might get closer to that. I also have the Golden Peach eye duo as well as Naked Bronze. And you know what? We should talk too about this Auric because this is pretty similar to these. The chocolatey shade there on the bottom. Naked Bronze, like this chocolatey shade is fine. I think I like platinum more, but then this glitter on top just sings. Look at it. It sings. And Golden Peach is just fantastic. So you have that really pretty pink and then the topper, which I think this topper is even better, that you just layer right on. Beautiful, beautiful concept. Now I think a lot of brands just incorporate the glitter already into the shadow rather than keeping them separate. These three I think are going to stay for now, more as a library item. And the Auric, I haven't used this in a while. I really need to pull it back out. But this is the shade Temper. That is beautiful. I mean, that shade alone, comparatively to these two, I like that base shadow more. I think that color's better. And then the Sparkle Topper is stunning. Beautiful stuff. Keeping the Auric. All right, like 5 battery packs later, I think we need to do like a lightning round of decluttering. The Essence Melted Chrome eyeshadow, this is Think About You. It is pretty, but it is frosty. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and declutter it. The Ulta Lustrous Foil eyeshadow in Rose Gold Leaf. It is pretty, but it is chunky. I am just not reaching for it. Again, there's nothing wrong with it. It is a little rough in general. I still think that it's really like sparkly and pretty and fun. I'm just not, again, I'm not reaching for it. So for that reason and that reason alone, I'm just going to pass it along. This NYX foil play eyeshadow in Baroque was a favorite for a long time, but they discontinued them. And also this is like pretty much dried out now. Beautiful. Similar to like the Rowan eyeshadow formula, but yeah, they discontinued it for whatever reason. The Prismetal Frosty Foil shadow from JCat. I already kept one. I don't think I need to keep this one. It is pretty, but the glitters do chunk up on each other sometimes. And though I love it, and sometimes I don't mind that, I'm just not reaching for it. So that needs to go. Daily Drams from Incredible. Very, very pretty, but it's discontinued. So no one's gonna be able to get it. It's stunning, absolutely beautiful. Have really liked it, and I liked how affordable it was, but again, no one can get it. So so I'm gonna declutter it. A couple of shadows from Moira. I have the shade Jupiter, which I have really loved. These are the Lucent eyeshadows. I mean, that's pretty. That's really pretty. And then we have this shade Infinity. as well, which is also quite pretty. Very nice. I think I'm going to keep both of those. This, I think, is like Moira's version of the Super Shock shadows. They're very, very creamy, like super, super emollient in the finger. They don't last a really long time, but I am a big fan of the light reflection that they give off. If you are a longtime viewer of my channel, you remember my love for the Ulta Bouncy Cream eyeshadows. So Ulta actually has brought these back. They're like doing a bit of a rebrand on the Ulta Beauty collection. Let me know if you guys want to see me try out a bunch of products and what ones are worth it. But for two shades that are going to stay, all of these are going to leave my collection because they just no longer exist and are discontinued. But let's talk about these because both of these are beautiful. This is Champagne Sorbet, and the bouncy cream shadows are very similar to the Colourpop Super Shock. Really smooth. They're just good everyday cream eyeshadows. Nothing too glitzy, though I will say Italian Ice, I'm so glad that they're bringing this one back, has been a favorite. Let me try and get a good swatch of this. It's so wet and reflective looking. I really hope they didn't change the formula. If you are a longtime viewer of my channel, you know how much I've loved this one in the past. So gorgeous, like a pinky taupe with these little glitters. Very, very pretty. Just nice kind of everyday eyeshadows. So I'm going to keep these for now, especially if I do end up purchasing the new ones and comparing them. But these ones are going to go. I had a honeycomb, which was always fine. Maple pecan, which was like a favorite. This one hurts because I really loved it. Again, just really nice kind of like everyday shade. And I actually had two of them. And then confetti. Confetti was never one that I used a ton, so I'm not too sad about leaving that one. I am going to go ahead and declutter this Clarins eyeshadow, the Ombre Sparkle in Peach Gold. Nothing wrong with it, and I think someone else would like it more. It's very pretty. It was a bit thick on my eyes. Like, there was just something about it that was a bit heavy looking for me. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it. The Phytosurgeon's Flash Fluorescence eyeshadows, they've just gotten a little bit buried in my collection. I have a few shades here. I have the shade Crystal Constellation. You do have to like kind of break through the top a little bit, but I will say that some of the ones that I've had have dried out now. Crystal Constellation is beautiful. If you want, again, like shadows with like a luxury shade selection, Phytosurgeons is definitely that. And the textures themselves remind me a bit of the Revlon Color Stay shadows. Very similar look to them. I also have Astral Atmosphere. This one has a little bit more glitter than the last one. You can see like the particles are a little bit bigger. We have Chilled Cherry, which I really made sure to screw on this one tight because I really liked it. But they are all a touch dried out, but I mean, that's to be expected. Definitely has that kind of sooty, undone quality that the Rituel de Fille Ashen Ember eye soats have. And then lastly, we have Oxidized Olive. I think I'm going to pass along Oxidized Olive, and I'm going to keep the top three here. These are the Diamond Luxe eyeshadows from Lorac. I have 4 different shades here. Now, this shade, Cashmere, I just swatched it. It's beautiful. I always forget about these. Unfortunately, they do tend to crumble a little bit, which is a bummer, but they're very luxurious. But I don't think I can keep all of them. Let's give them a swatch here. This is the shade Suede. I think Suede needs to go. Does it? Look at how pretty that is. I don't need all of that. God, that's gorgeous. Suede is not going. I gotta find one to get rid of though. I can't keep all 4. I have the shade Lace. by the end of this video, I'm just like completely covered in glitter. Okay, and lace is absolutely serving. Let's see silk. Come on, silk. Silk is the most intact out of all of them, and it's the most wet. Like, this is still not too dry. And you know, ironically, I think I like that one the least. So we're gonna go ahead and pass on the shade Silk. And I think these three have to stay. All right, everyone. These are all of these single eyeshadows that I am decluttering. I feel so good about this. I feel like I have more space to actually use these single shadows that I already have. So this feels really nice. This is a heavy, heavy box. And this is my new collection of single eyeshadows. It is still large, but we have made a lot of room. But overall, I just want to thank you guys for being here. I know this was a really, really long video. I hope you really enjoyed it. And if you love declutters, I have a lot of declutters coming, so make sure you're subscribed. And with all of that, I will see you all in my next one.